I think that's an issue with magicians as well, because a lot of magicians are not willing to stand firm on their price, which is like, I mean, with me, I don't change my price for each client. It's always, I mean, I don't want to speak numbers too publicly, but it's always the same for each type of event. For example, mine's about the average for the performer in my area for weddings, right? It's for birthday parties, I think I charge probably a bit more, but I mean, I think people are willing to haggle. They're willing to.
Exactly. So let's analyze that briefly from a psychological standpoint. Okay. So Dan or Alex, if you had 10 gigs this month that were paying you $1,000 a show, would you haggle on your price?
No, because I don't need to.
Case closed. That's why I don't haggle. My price is this. I would rather lose the gig and keep their respect than temporarily book it because I'm eager for work. And the only reason why magicians are haggling on their prices, and this is a conclusion I have for myself, I ain't busy enough, right? I just told a lady today, she was talking about doing a graduation party in California. Want to know the price? She said, hey, we're going to have 50 people in my house. Fantastic, man. She said, what's the price? $2,500.
How would somebody from California find you all the way in Florida?
Market out there.
Interesting. So you're actually flying, you're not just in the Tampa area. You're flying, wherever.
Nationwide, coast to coast. Flying out tomorrow, going to Palm Springs, California.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
What kind of gigs are you aiming at in California, like corporate and country clubs and stuff?
All of it.
Fair enough.
All of it.
How much is a flight to Palm Springs, for example?
You can catch it anywhere from 300 to 600 round trip.
So you're taking 1,800 minimum home from the gig after you've got the flight?
Correct.
That's not bad, What do you think makes people choose you over somebody in the Los Angeles area or California area?
Well, I think number one, they believe my price is price. Okay. I don't have my price. That's the fee. This is the fee. Okay. And the thing is that I've learned is that the more I have changed my vocabulary to sound more like a CEO, I'm talking more to CEOs, right? A CEO that's in charge of a multi-million-dollar company, he doesn't want to haggle with you. He wants to know what's the fee. Okay. Somebody calls me and they say, it's 3,000, or it's 4,000, or it's 5,000. Click them. There is no, I don't answer that question like it's a question. You ask people their price. I mean, I'm going through it right now. I'm getting ready to put a putting green on my property here. Okay. I'll put a little synthetic putting green. So, I don't have to drive the golf course every day. I know, a little lazy, but that's cool. Okay. I ask these guys and say, how much is it for putting? 1,800?
You'd be like,
and I'm thinking, I don't know, my dog, is it 1,800? I asked you. You coming back to me like it's I don't know, is it 1,800? So at that point, I don't even believe his price. So if I don't believe his price, I don't believe his work. If I don't believe his work, I don't believe he's going to have the results that I want. I'm not going to take the risk on the money.
So speaking on what we spoke about over the phone, a couple of days ago, you said your whole mission is to help magicians, overcome no more excuses is how I believe that you phrased it. You want to elaborate on what you mean about no more excuses?
Well, when I was coming up in the magic community, there were all those supposed greats, right? You look up to that back in the 90s, there was this thing called like World's Greatest Magic. It always came on the night before Thanksgiving in the States. And you would see Gertner and Daryl and Amar and Williamson and Tom Mullica. You would see all these great people on the show doing magic. And I remember when I was younger and I was trying to come up, I reached out to those, sent them emails, asking them like, look, I even came at him. I wasn't even trying to ask him for free advice. I came at him and said, hey, what do you charge for a phone call? This is what I want to do. I want to be a full-time pro. It seems like you're doing it. And people would read my emails and they wouldn't answer me. They didn't get back to me. And I was like, what's that about? And I mean, I went to the top of the food chain. I went to the big wigs and asked them. They didn't answer my question. So I said, okay. I said, I'm going to get my answers one way or another. And I got my answers outside of the magic community, So now me coming back into the magic community as a magician, it's like, somebody's out there and they want to know how to book shows or they want to know what it takes to be full time. I'm willing to help them. And you're going to hear it from like a lot of stuff I learned from a guy that owns a car lot. I learned something from a guy that owns an insurance company. I learned it from a guy that has, a tech company. I learned all this stuff from all these outside people that wasn't in the magic community because business is business. 80% of all business is the same. It's all people. It's just knowing how to relate people. Yeah, I mean, this guy might, sell software and I might be over here doing a Elmsley count, but we're still dealing with people. So, if a magician reaches out to me, they hit me in the DM, they send me an email, I at least answer them because I remember how that felt when I reached out to people and I didn't get an answer.
That's good. Giving back to the community is always good. And have you thought about setting up maybe like a program where you, well, not necessarily to monetize, but to publicize your, let's say, teachings on the business side of magic?
Yeah, there's two things I got in development. I got a video series that's going to be online that people can, I figured out it would be easier for me to do like a series of videos on all these different topics. We watch them, they can rent them, they can write down notes, they can go back and watch them. I was doing private coaching for a while. I still offer it, but I don't really push it so much. But I'm going to do the video series that's going to launch here really, really soon. And I think what I want to do is after the video series, I want to do like conference, like a 3-day conference where magicians can come in, they can answer their questions, but more importantly, they can hear from other people, right? They can actually hear from, like, I got friends of mine that are corporate decision makers, nonprofit decision makers, country club decision makers, and they can actually hear how these people make decisions on how they book entertainment, who they decide to pick, and all that. I remember was a magician recently reached out to me when I was in St. Louis, and he said, how do you find these corporate people that have the money to pay what you're asking, right? And I said, they all have. If a company's doing $1 million a year, they all have. But just because they choose not to pay you doesn't mean they don't have it. They just didn't pay you.
What do you think separates the people that are doing corporate events, making a lot of money per gig versus the guys like David Blaine, who were over there, like stealing watches off George Bush, like moving up to the political sector in magic? I
mean, David Blaine's carved a niche out for himself way before anybody else did. Back in the 90s doing street magic, that publicized everything. Now he's a national brand. I think I heard that he's asking $100K per appearance, and I heard that he gets it. So good for him.
Well, David Blaine probably does corporate stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's going to pay him $100,000 to appear, I mean, that's what I heard.
I'm just saying, like, I don't mean, I'm more like a vague way, like, how would you get into performing, say, for politicians?
You pitch them. It ain't hard.
Have you ever did that before? Like, say, pitched for like a congressman's party or something?
I actually made a conscious decision that I will not perform for a political figure above a mayor. And the reason why is because, and I remember I put this question out on Facebook, is if I do that, do I look like I align with their political views, right? And here's the funny thing about that answer. Literally, it was split right down the middle. Half the people on Facebook said no, and the other half said yes.